Welcome, educators, instructional designers, and researchers. You are tuning into a brand new Research Union Insights Explainer. Today, we're tackling a topic that gets right to the absolute heart of teaching and, honestly, learning. We are talking about the paradigm shift to authentic assessment. We're fundamentally rethinking how we evaluate student mastery. So, get ready, because we're moving way beyond the traditional ways we've always done things to uncover what our students are truly capable of achieving.
I want to kick things off by having you reflect on a pretty fundamental question. Are we testing memory or are we testing mastery? Think about the classic pain point of traditional testing. We've literally all seen it. Students cramp for a midterm, they completely ace a multiple choice test, and then poof, practically overnight, they forget every single thing they just memorized. If our true purpose in education is to actually prepare people for the complex, messy realities of the professional world and civic life, relying solely on short-term memorization is a trap. We have to figure out if our students have internalized the course material in a way that actually changes how they think and act.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. First, we'll look at the memorization trap. Second, defining authentic assessment. Third, traditional versus authentic. Fourth, real-world assessment examples. And finally, designing your own assessment.
Section 1, the memorization trap and the limits of pen and paper testing.
You know, for a lot of teachers, it is incredibly frustrating to spend weeks covering a complex topic, only to realize that a standard test just isn't capturing a student's actual understanding. The issue with standard testing is that it often forces us to focus on the what, just the isolated facts, rather than the how. To really ground this, think about this brilliant analogy from Edutopia. Imagine trying to assess a pro baseball player's skills, someone like Johnny Damon, right? If you hand him a written multiple-choice quiz about baseball, what do you actually learn? Well, you might find out he knows the rules, the dimensions of the diamond, and the history of the game. But that written quiz tells you absolutely nothing about his actual playing ability. It can't measure how fast he tracks a fly ball or what his batting average is under pressure. That is the exact same disconnect we face when we give a student a written quiz on a highly complex or practical academic subject.
Section 2, defining authentic assessment, focusing on the meaningful application of knowledge.
So if we want to know if our students can actually play the game in their respective fields, we have to redirect our teaching and our evaluating toward real work. Researchers at the University of Connecticut define this beautifully. Authentic assessment is a form of assessment where students demonstrate meaningful application of knowledge and skills by performing real-world tasks. Notice the phrasing there, meaningful application and real-world tasks. We aren't talking about contrived problems where you just circle option C. These tasks require students to tackle the actual messy problems faced by professionals and citizens. It demands real judgment, innovation, and integrating a whole bunch of different skills.
So what does this actually look like in practice? Well, it opens up this massive world of instructional creativity. Instead of a standard essay, students might do oral interviews or put together curated exhibitions of their work. They could build comprehensive portfolios that show how their understanding has evolved over time. In a music class, it might literally be composing a song. In communications, creating an actionable flyer or producing a commercial. In political science, it's engaging in a formal, structured debate. These are tangible products that have a verified, real-world purpose.
Section 3, traditional versus authentic, a structural comparison.
And this brilliantly illustrates the shift. To really grasp this new paradigm, we need to systematically break down how knowing differs from doing. Drawing on researcher Grant Wiggins, the contrast between the two is stark. In a traditional assessment, the student is passive. They just select a response contrived by the instructor, which focuses on little bits of information. But in an authentic assessment, the student actually performs a task in a real-life scenario. It focuses on inquiry. The learning becomes active and student-structured. Bottom line, traditional testing gives us indirect evidence of learning, while authentic tasks give us direct evidence.
Now, quick point of clarification here, because we definitely aren't saying you should throw all your multiple choice tests in the trash. Actually, traditional and authentic assessments complement each other perfectly. The Yukon research points out that combining them creates a much stronger overall approach. Think about it. A medical student absolutely needs to pass a traditional written test on a specific medical condition to prove their baseline knowledge. You have to have that. But you wouldn't just unleash them in a hospital based on that written test alone, right? Their true mastery is evaluated authentically when they prove they can treat a patient with that condition during medical rounds. So it's baseline knowledge first, applied mastery second.
Section 4, real-world assessment examples and cross-disciplinary applications. Now, what's really interesting here is that there's a common misconception that authentic assessment only works in heavily applied fields like healthcare or the trades, but it adapts incredibly well to entirely different departments, as showcased by Indiana University's Center for Innovative Teaching and Learning. In nursing, like we just talked about, it's assessing a patient case study to create a care plan. But look at business. Students aren't just defining marketing terms, they're developing a complete business or marketing plan for an actual company. In computer science, they might troubleshoot broken code or develop an app to solve a specific problem. And even in history, a subject that's traditionally all about essays and dates, students can engage in a role play of a historical event. This framework seriously works everywhere.
Section 5. Designing your assessment, a practical roadmap for educators.
All right, we need to address the elephant in the room. Developing authentic assessments is undeniably harder. And yeah, it is usually more time-consuming to grade than just running bubble sheets through a scanner. But because it evaluates what students can actually do with their knowledge in context, it is so profoundly worth the effort. Let's look at a practical roadmap for making this manageable. Step 1. Design backwards. Start with your intended learning objectives. If you know exactly what the student should be able to do at the end, it's way easier to plan the task. Step 2. Break the real-world experience down into small steps so you don't completely overwhelm your students. Step 3. Develop rubrics to clarify expectations. Honestly, rubrics are the absolute heroes of authentic assessment. They reduce friction, they make subjective grading objective, and they make the whole thing scalable. And step 4, encourage student reflection. Having students reflect on the task helps them recognize their own learning and helps you see exactly where they got stuck.
That crucial point really centers on how we use those rubrics. The UConn literature states it perfectly. By sharing the rubric, the instructor is not providing the answers, but assisting students in understanding what is considered a strong performance. See, in traditional testing, we hide the test. In authentic assessment, the standards for judgment should be totally known and predictable. We actually want to teach to the test here because the test is a meaningful, real-world task. Transparent rubrics empower your students to self-correct while they're working, which ultimately saves you massive amounts of grading time on the back end.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a challenge. Take a look at your current syllabus right now. What is one assessment, just one, that you can change tomorrow to test mastery instead of memory? How can you move your students from just reciting the facts of the game to actually getting out on the field and playing it? Start small, design backwards, and just watch how deeply your students engage when the work actually matters. Thank you so much for joining us on this Research Union Insights Explainer, and happy teaching!